Hi, everybody, and welcome to another comics loving edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Glad to be talking on this episode on a Sunday. It feels like morning here, but it's actually like afternoon. Malachi Ward. Malachi, thank you for talking with me for a little bit.
Hi, Jason. Yeah, good to talk to you.
Good to talk with you. Now, I'll mention a couple of titles and collaborations at the beginning here, and then we can sort of travel wherever you would like in the conversation and talk a little bit about your path. So you've done some work in the Trek verse, Star Trek universe. You have done some work in a lovely, lovely series, the Black Hammer world, with some of that very soon on the way as well, right around the corner with Black Hammer at the end. You have collaborated with Matt Sheenan on Ancestor Expansion. Those are two titles, by the way, folks, Ancestor and Expansion. And then you've also got sort of an anthology book, which is From Now On. So I love the science fiction connections in your work. I'm guessing you're a science fiction fan, reader, person.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, science fiction and fantasy have always been two genres that I've been really drawn to. Um, yeah, so it's sometimes I describe it as sort of like the language that I speak for storytelling. It's
Oh
just sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
the like a lot of times there's a question of why tell this story in science fiction, and for me, a lot of times uh, it feels like a weird question because it just seems like the natural thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a longtime reader of science fiction and also comics. Any particular titles, authors, stories that were part of your growing up and your path to this work?
Well, I had, and like a lot of people, I had like a really potent Ray Bradbury phase when I was
Hmm.
young. Um, yeah, where I devoured kind of everything from him, and then also Kurt Vonnegut um, was a big one for me. Uh, and then comics, I remember getting from like an uncle, his collection of like heavy metal that he didn't want anymore when I
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
12 or 13 or something like that. Um, yeah, so I was seeing a lot of that stuff at just the right age.
Nice, nice. You mentioned two of my absolute favorites there, Bradbury and Vonnegut. I mean the creativity, the with Vonnegut, the sarcasm. I appreciate that a lot. Um, so I think it was you did a variant of Star Trek Defiant, I think, one of the covers, I believe, and that art immediately made me want to read that series. So
Oh, good.
yeah, yeah, I love the approach that you took there. So that's also one of my favorite pieces that you've done. Do you have favorite experiences, collaborations, work that you've done?
Yeah, well, I, I mean, one of my favorite things that I've done is getting to work with Matt Sheen and um, the comic we did together, Ancestor, that we wrote and drew together. Um, I still really like that, and doing, yeah, kind of combining different types of science fiction into one story. Um, and then right now, I get to draw on Black Hammer, Jeff Lemire's superhero kind of gothic superhero book.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it's been really fun to step into a pre-existing superhero world. I liked superhero characters like a lot of people my age growing up.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
and so and have very kind of like romantic ideas about monthly superhero comics.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to get a taste of that, but also sort of within kind of Jeff Lemire's version of that, where his version of like a superhero universe is a little off kilter from something like Marvel or DC, and there's also a lot more freedom uh,
Yeah,
in his universe. Yeah,
love it, love it. Yeah, and I was going to ask about the Jeff Lemire connection and what that's like to work with him because he just seems to be really somebody with a unique vision. And Black Hammer is it's one of the best comics in the superhero sort of subgenre that I feel like has come out in the past 10 years or so.
yeah, I think so too. I was a reader and a fan before I ever started working on it. Um, yeah, and Jeff is really good to work with. I hadn't done a ton of like usually I write my own stuff or
Hmm.
write in collaboration with Matt. Um, and it was a really easy transition to just draw for Jeff because I think partially because he writes and draws his comics as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So his scripts are, I think, to me, very clearly written for someone who, it has like exactly the information you need and nothing else.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and he's very open to um, any sorts of changes that you want to make in terms of like paneling or anything like that. Um, and he also writes really far ahead, so there's just sort of more time to to draw things. And yeah, overall, it's like the right mix of kind of casual and professional.
nice, nice, love it, love it. So, any collaborations that you'd like to embark on, or worlds that you'd like to create in that you haven't tackled yet?
I mean, there are, because I've been doing a few years of drawing for Black Hammer stuff. I definitely want to get back to writing, and there are, I mean, all kinds of artists that it would be really fun to write for.
Hmm.
Um, and Matt and I will be collaborating on something I think next year again, so that'll be really fun. And then as far as different worlds that you know, like a lot of people, I have sort of an endless number of ideas for different characters that I like. Um, you know, uh, and then there's all kinds of science fiction stuff that I love. Like we've talked a little bit about Star Trek. Star Trek is still,
Hmm.
even though I get to do covers all the time, and um, at some point I would like to write and draw a Star
Yeah,
Trek story, like a longer Star Trek story. Um, that's kind of Star Trek is like the only kind of property that I guess that like in the true sense of the like fan description, I meet that. Um, but you know, I love all kinds of like Verhoeven stuff, RoboCop, and
hmm. Hmm.
like that. Or Alien is another favorite kind of series for me. Um, I did get a chance, speaking of Verhoeven, to do cover art for the vinyl release of the Starship Troopers soundtrack.
Oh, cool, very cool.
That I think is about to come out. Um, uh, yeah, so stuff like that is kind of where I feel like I have kind of the most ideas for.
Yeah, yeah, and that is some classic Verhoeven with
Yeah.
Starship Troopers. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Do you have a favorite Trek verse? Because Defiant takes a couple of those and weaves them together. Do you have an ideal universe within the Trek that you would like to take
Oh,
on?
like where I would tell a story.
Hmm.
Um, I there's a particular idea that takes place kind of right before and right around the first season of Next Generation,
Nice.
uh, in that kind of time period. But there's all sorts of, I mean, I think it would be really interesting to explore still a little bit of that gap between the Enterprise TV show and the original series.
Mhm.
There's lots of interesting stuff in there. And then now there's lots of interesting stuff in the gap between, um, the Picard and um, the last few seasons of Discovery.
Yeah,
Uh,
true.
so yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff like that. I there's so many corners of Star Trek that it's pretty easy to and there are so many traditions of very kind of like episodic uh science fiction short stories that are kind of adapted into Star Trek episodes that
Hmm.
there are lots of Star Trek ideas that I have that are just that could kind of be set anywhere in the Star Trek world.
Yeah, yeah, love that. Lots of gaps to fill, and hopefully the Roddenberry estate is checking this episode out and can say yes
Right.
to that. I don't know
Right.
that they are. I hope they're big fans, but yeah, hopefully they greenlight something for you. That would be awesome.
Well, it has been really cool to do pretty regular covers for the comic series. Um, it I had been wanting to do covers for Star Trek and done one or two here and there, but I think finally, kind of in the last year or so, found found that spot in the Venn diagram of the concentric circles of a style that I like and
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
style that the licensor likes and a style that IDW, the publisher, likes, and hopefully a style that the readers like also.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So last official question that's on the list, and then we can hit anything that we've missed. And that is, I always like to give you the chance to talk about upcoming things, if nothing else, just titles, or I'm working with such and such on such and such, that kind of thing. I know sometimes those are limited, as well as web spaces where folks can connect, and any go-to spots for you as far as appearances that are coming up and things like that. And I know I mentioned Black Hammer at the end, which suggests something finite. There's a part of me that's like, I hope it's not over. But there's also a part of me that appreciates when people sort of let things be a story and then explore different sort of splinter universes too. And then you also mentioned you have a collaboration with Matt coming up as well.
Yeah. So the next thing is the first issue of Black Hammer: The End comes out on August 30th.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that'll be 6 issues. And it does wrap up kind of the main Black Hammer storyline. Um, but I know Jeff will have, at the very least, he's done these kind of standalone miniseries featuring different characters. At the
Hmm.
very least, he'll continue doing those.
Awesome. Awesome.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he picks up a thread from the main storyline and does a sequel of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm working on right now, and will be coming out kind of into the beginning of next year. And then, yeah, the work with Matt is still early stages. We're writing it. We won't get started on it until sometime next year. Um, And then I don't have too many. I think the only other show I'm doing this year is New York Comic Con. I'll be in New York
Mhm.
Comic Con. So if
Great,
anybody's
great.
going to that, definitely stop by the table and say hi. And then yeah, it's just one of the benefits of having a name like Malachi Ward is it's just Malachi Ward on all the different social medias.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything that I missed that you want to make sure to mention?
that's it.
All right. Excuse me. Thanks so much for talking with me and glad to share about your work. And as I mentioned, I'll be sending these links back around to you. Glad to talk with you anytime about anything that's upcoming. And I do hope to see some Verhoeven storylines and Star Trek storylines and things to come. That would be amazing.
Thanks, Jason.
All right. Thank you.